A homeless young woman goes to a job interview and leaves a millionaire speechless when she tells him that. The Chicago winter bit through Destiny Williams' 3 layers of clothing as she hurried down Michigan Avenue. At 25, the young African-American woman had already lived several lifetimes' worth of hardship. The digital thermometer on a nearby bank flashed -10 degrees. Her breath formed clouds in the freezing air as she clutched her worn backpack tighter. It contained everything she owned in the world. 6 months ago, she had been different. A computer science graduate with honors, with a small apartment she shared with her mother. Then came the diagnosis. Her mom's rare heart condition had required experimental treatments. Treatments that insurance wouldn't cover. Treatments that drained every penny they had saved. "It's full tonight, honey. Maybe try the shelter on Harrison," said Martha, the intake coordinator at the women's shelter where Destiny had slept the previous 3 nights. "That's across town," Destiny said, her voice steady despite the sinking feeling in her stomach. "The temperature's dropping fast." Martha's eyes filled with sympathy. "I'm sorry. We're over capacity already. Fire marshal would shut us down." Destiny nodded and turned away. She wouldn't cry. Not here. Not now. She'd done enough crying at her mother's funeral 3 months ago, and again when the bank took their apartment. Tears didn't solve anything. She made her way to the public library, her sanctuary during daylight hours. It would close soon, but at least she could warm up before facing another night searching for shelter. Inside, she headed straight for the computer area, nodding at Jerome, the security guard who had stopped questioning her daily visits. Destiny set her worn laptop on the table, a 5-year-old model she'd received as a graduation gift. It barely worked, but she guarded it fiercely. Opening her email, she checked for responses to the 15 job applications she'd sent yesterday. 5 automatic rejections. 10 no responses. Same as the day before. And the day before that. 212 applications sent in the past 3 months. 0 interviews. As she typed another cover letter, her mind flashed back to her last job interview 6 weeks ago. The hiring manager had looked at her resume, then at the address she'd listed, a homeless shelter, and his expression had changed instantly. "We'll keep your resume on file," he'd said, not meeting her eyes. The interview had lasted less than 5 minutes. Her stomach growled, reminding her she hadn't eaten since the free breakfast at the shelter that morning. Opening her backpack, she took inventory: 1 change of clothes, toiletries, her mother's photo, a phone with a cracked screen, the laptop, and exactly $4.73 in change. Not enough for both food and the bus fare she'd need to reach the other shelter. "Library's closing in 15 minutes, Jerome announced. Destiny shut down her laptop and packed up her things. Through the library window, she could see a happy family walking past, parents swinging a little girl between them, all bundled up against the cold, laughing. She watched them until they disappeared from view, a familiar ache spreading through her chest. Outside again, she counted coins in her palm, making a decision. Food would have to wait. She needed to save enough for bus fare to a job center tomorrow. Walking past a diner, the smell of hot food made her dizzy with hunger. Through the window, she saw people sitting in warm booths, sipping coffee, eating hot meals, completely unaware of their good fortune. Finding a relatively sheltered spot beside a heating vent outside a department store, Destiny settled in for a few hours of uncertain rest. She took out the small photo of her mother, the one thing she couldn't bear to sell or lose. "I'm not giving up, Mom," she whispered, tracing her mother's smiling face with her finger. "I promise. Somehow, I'll find a way out of this." As pedestrians hurried past, no one noticed the young woman with the computer science degree, huddled against the bitter cold, clutching a photograph and making promises to the wind. The temperature dropped to 15 below zero that night, the coldest in Chicago's recent history. After being turned away from 3 different shelters, Destiny found herself in a subway entrance, shivering uncontrollably. The transit authority usually kicked out homeless people after midnight, but tonight the security guards were letting people stay, unofficially acknowledging that sending anyone into this cold could be a death sentence. Destiny huddled against the wall, clutching her backpack to her chest. Around her, a dozen others in similar situations tried to find comfort on the hard floor. An elderly woman a few feet away caught Destiny's attention, thin, with silver hair and a face deeply lined by years of hardship. She wore several layers of mismatched clothing, but they were clearly inadequate for this weather. The woman's breathing suddenly became labored. She clutched at her chest, eyes wide with panic. Without hesitation, Destiny moved to her side. "Ma'am? Are you okay?" Destiny asked, placing a gentle hand on the woman's shoulder. The woman couldn't respond, struggling for air. Drawing on a first aid course she'd taken in college, Destiny helped the woman sit upright and loosened her outer layers. "Someone call 911. Destiny shouted. A teenager nearby pulled out a phone. Destiny stayed with the woman, talking softly, helping her focus on breathing until paramedics arrived 15 minutes later. As they prepared to take the woman to the hospital, she grabbed Destiny's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Eleanor." "Destiny. Will you be okay?" Eleanor nodded weakly. "Would you come see me tomorrow? Northwestern Memorial. I don't have anyone else." Destiny hesitated, then nodded. What else did she have to do besides send more unanswered job applications? The next afternoon, Destiny found Eleanor in a hospital bed, looking frail but alert. The doctors had treated her for hypothermia and a respiratory infection. "You saved my life," Eleanor said when Destiny entered. "Anyone would have helped," Destiny replied, uncomfortable with the praise. "No. Most would have looked away. I've been on the streets long enough to know." They talked for hours. Eleanor had been a librarian for 40 years before a mental breakdown following her husband's death led to her losing her home. "I still have a key to the staff entrance at the Lincoln Park branch," Eleanor confided. "Sometimes I sneak in after hours to stay warm and read. The night guard knows but pretends not to see me." Her eyes lit up. "You said you're looking for jobs. You could use the computers there. After hours, no time limits." Destiny couldn't believe her luck. That night, Eleanor showed her how to slip in through the service entrance. The computers in the reference section were newer and faster than the public ones. After sending applications for 3 hours, Destiny checked her email one last time before leaving. Among the usual rejections was a message that stood out, from Maxwell Enterprises, one of the largest tech companies in the country. "Dear Ms. Williams, your resume has been selected for an interview with Blake Maxwell, CEO of Maxwell Enterprises, for a junior developer position. Please reply to confirm your availability for this Friday at 2 p.m. Destiny stared at the screen in disbelief. She hadn't even applied to Maxwell Enterprises. How had they gotten her resume? "Good news?" Eleanor asked, looking up from a book. I think so. An interview with Maxwell Enterprises. But I don't understand how they got my information." Eleanor's expression changed. "Blake Maxwell. Be careful, dear. They call him the Chicago Executioner. He's fired 7 assistants in the past year alone." Destiny quickly researched Blake Maxwell. Articles described him as brilliant but merciless, a tech prodigy who built his empire through ruthless business tactics. His net worth was estimated at $2.6 billion. "Should I even go?" Destiny asked. Eleanor considered this. "What do you have to lose? Just be prepared for someone who values results over people." As they left the library, Destiny's phone buzzed with a notification about a historic blizzard approaching Chicago, due to hit on Friday, the day of her interview. Have you ever helped someone in a desperate situation like Destiny did? Tell us where you're watching from and if you've ever experienced an unexpected connection that changed your life. Your comment might inspire our next story. The morning after discovering the interview opportunity, Destiny woke up coughing in a corner of a day shelter. Her chest felt tight, and each breath came with a painful rattle. She'd been ignoring the symptoms for days, knowing that many shelters turned away visibly sick people to prevent outbreaks. "That cough doesn't sound good," said a volunteer serving breakfast. Destiny waved away the concern. "Just the cold weather." But as the day progressed, so did her symptoms. Her forehead burned with fever, and the coughing fits left her dizzy. By afternoon, she could barely focus on the screen at the public library where she was researching Blake Maxwell and preparing for the interview. The search results on Maxwell made her stomach knot with anxiety. News articles detailed his reputation for firing employees on the spot for minor mistakes. A viral video showed him humiliating a presenter during a product launch. Former employees described him as brilliant but soulless, impossible to please, and a perfectionist with zero empathy. Destiny's phone buzzed with a weather alert. The approaching blizzard had been upgraded to a potential record breaker, with predicted temperatures of 20 below zero. Her finger hovered over the reply button to the interview email. What was she thinking? Someone like her interviewing with Blake Maxwell? It seemed like a cruel joke. Memories of past rejections flooded back. The marketing firm where the interviewer had looked at her community college degree and asked if she had accidentally applied for the wrong position. The startup where they'd said her background might not be a cultural fit. And worst of all, the tech company where the interviewer had openly scoffed when she listed a shelter as her address. That last interview had been recorded by another candidate waiting in the lobby. The video of her humiliation had circulated online briefly. Homeless girl gets reality check in tech interview. The comments had been brutal. "You look terrible," Eleanor said when Destiny visited her at the hospital that evening. "And that cough." "I'm fine," Destiny insisted, but another coughing fit doubled her over. Eleanor pulled a tissue from the bedside table. When Destiny pulled it away from her mouth, spots of blood stained the white paper. "That's it. You're seeing a doctor right now," Eleanor said firmly. She pressed her call button, and when a nurse arrived, she pointed to Destiny. "This young woman needs medical attention." An hour later, a doctor in the emergency room confirmed what Eleanor had feared. "Early-stage pneumonia," he told Destiny. "You need antibiotics, rest, and warm shelter. Otherwise, this could become life-threatening, especially in this weather." "I have an interview on Friday," Destiny said weakly. "It's important." The doctor frowned. "You should be resting, not interviewing. Is there someone who can take care of you? Family?" Destiny shook her head. The doctor prescribed antibiotics and gave her a handful of samples, knowing she couldn't afford to fill a prescription. Back in Eleanor's hospital room, Destiny stared at her phone. "Maybe I should cancel the interview. I can barely breathe, I have nothing professional to wear, and this blizzard." "Let me tell you something," Eleanor said, sitting up straighter in her bed. "Before I was a librarian, before I ended up on the streets, I was one of the first female programmers at IBM in the 70s. Destiny looked up in surprise. "The men laughed when I walked into the room. They gave me the worst assignments. My supervisor took credit for my work." Eleanor's eyes flashed with the memory. "But I showed up every day and did the work better than any of them." She reached for Destiny's hand. "I lost everything when my husband died. The grief, it broke something in me. I couldn't function. Couldn't pay bills. By the time I came back to myself, I was on the streets." Her grip tightened. "Don't make my mistake. Don't let circumstances beat you. You have something special, I can see it. This interview is your chance." Destiny's eyes filled with tears. "But what if he's as terrible as they say? What if I fail?" "Then you'll be exactly where you are now," Eleanor said simply. "But what if you succeed?" Destiny looked down at the email again, then back at Eleanor's determined face. With a deep breath that triggered another painful cough, she pressed reply and confirmed the interview. Friday at 2 p.m., she typed with shaking fingers. "I look forward to meeting Mr. Maxwell. The next morning, Destiny returned to Eleanor's hospital room with 2 cups of cheap vending machine coffee. The antibiotics had helped somewhat, but her cough persisted, and her body ached with fever. Still, she was determined to prepare for the interview. "Tell me more about your programming days," Destiny said, handing Eleanor a cup. "You never mentioned that before." Eleanor's eyes brightened. 1972, I was 23, fresh out of college with a math degree. IBM was hiring computer girls because they could pay us less than men. She laughed. They thought we'd be good at it because it was like planning a dinner. That's an actual quote from a Cosmopolitan article back then. "Were you good at it?" Destiny asked. "I was exceptional," Eleanor said without a hint of boasting. "I worked on early database systems. The men took credit, of course, but I knew my worth." Eleanor reached into her bag beside the hospital bed and pulled out a small velvet pouch. From it, she removed a silver brooch in the shape of an owl with tiny crystal eyes. "I wore this to every important presentation. My good luck charm." She pinned it to Destiny's worn sweater. "Now it's yours." "I can't take this," Destiny protested. "You're not taking it. I'm lending it to you for the interview. My small contribution to your future." For the next several hours, Eleanor coached Destiny on everything from coding questions to interview etiquette. Destiny took notes on a pad provided by the hospital. "Maxwell will try to intimidate you," Eleanor said. "He's looking for weakness. Don't show any, even if you feel it." "How do you know so much about him?" Destiny asked. "The tech world is smaller than you think. And librarians know how to research." Eleanor smiled mysteriously. "Now, let's talk about your algorithm." Destiny had been working on an app she called Street Smart during her late-night sessions at the library. It was designed to help homeless people find resources, shelters with available beds, soup kitchens, public restrooms, free medical clinics, in real time. "Show me your code," Eleanor said. Destiny opened her laptop. Eleanor studied the screen, occasionally asking questions or suggesting improvements. Despite her age and time away from technology, Eleanor's mind was still sharp. "Your sorting algorithm could be more efficient," she said, pointing to a section of code. "Try using a heap sort instead of a bubble sort here. It'll be faster with large datasets." Destiny made the change, amazed at Eleanor's knowledge. "How do you know modern programming techniques?" "I read. Libraries have books, you know," Eleanor teased. "And just because I lost my home doesn't mean I lost my mind. I keep up with technology journals when I can." They spent hours refining the app, with Eleanor providing insights from her decades of experience. By evening, StreetSmart had evolved from a rough prototype to a sophisticated application. "This could help so many people," Eleanor said, her voice soft with emotion. "It's not just clever code, it's kindness in digital form. If only I had a way to deploy it properly," Destiny sighed. "Right now, it only works on my laptop." "One step at a time," Eleanor said. "First, get the job at Maxwell. Then change the world." As night fell, a nurse informed them that Eleanor would be discharged the next day. Her insurance would only cover 2 nights. "Where will you go?" Destiny asked, worried. "Back to the streets, I suppose," Eleanor said with practiced calm. "The community center on Warren Street usually has space. The one run by Pastor Mike. I stayed there last month," Destiny said. "It's better than most shelters." "Now, about your interview outfit," Eleanor changed the subject. "Hospital gift shop has a decent blouse. Overpriced, but clean." "I can't afford I still have my Social Security payment this month," Eleanor interrupted. "Let an old woman do something useful with it." The next morning, Eleanor was discharged. Despite Destiny's protests, she insisted on spending $43 of her limited funds on a white blouse and a small bottle of shampoo from the gift shop. "First impressions matter," Eleanor said firmly. And you'll pay me back when you're a hotshot programmer. They parted ways outside the hospital, promising to meet at the library that evening. As Destiny watched the elderly woman walk slowly away, she realized that in just a few days, this stranger had become the closest thing to family she had left. That night at the library, as they put final touches on Destiny's interview preparation, Eleanor handed her a folded piece of paper. "My greatest programming achievement," she said. "A mathematical model I developed in 1978 for predictive resource allocation. It was revolutionary then, and the principle still applies. Study it. It might help with your interview, and your app." Destiny unfolded the paper, finding complex formulas and elegantly structured algorithms in faded handwriting. On the bottom corner was a small note, "Eleanor Jenkins, lead programmer, Project Aurora, IBM 1978. "You really were a pioneer," Destiny whispered. "And you will be too," Eleanor replied, squeezing her hand. "Just remember, you belong in that room with Maxwell, no matter what anyone says." Friday morning arrived with the promised blizzard. Destiny woke in a church basement that had opened as an emergency shelter, her chest still tight but her determination unwavering. The antibiotics had reduced her fever, but the cough remained. The weather alert on her phone was ominous, historic blizzard conditions. All non-emergency travel discouraged. Public transportation severely limited or suspended. Destiny looked out the church window at the wall of white. The interview was at 2 p.m. She checked the time, 8:17 a.m. Under normal conditions, the Maxwell Enterprises building downtown was a 40-minute bus ride. Today, it might as well be on another planet. "They're canceling bus service at noon," announced a volunteer. "Anyone needing to leave should go now or plan to stay until tomorrow." Destiny gathered her things. She had spent her last dollars on antibiotics and couldn't afford a taxi or rideshare. There was only one option, walking. In the church bathroom, she changed into her single set of professional clothes, the white blouse from the hospital gift shop, black pants that she'd carefully washed in a sink the night before, and her only pair of shoes, sneakers that would have to do despite being completely inappropriate for both a job interview and a blizzard. She pinned Eleanor's silver owl brooch to her blouse. "For luck," she whispered to herself. The church volunteer looked concerned when Destiny explained she needed to leave. "You can't go out in this, especially with that cough. Whatever it is can wait." "It can't," Destiny said simply, and stepped out into the storm. The wind hit her like a physical blow, the cold instantly penetrating her inadequate clothing. According to her phone's map, Maxwell Enterprises was 7.5 miles away. Under these conditions, that meant hours of walking. One step at a time, she told herself, Eleanor's words echoing in her mind. The first mile was the hardest. The snow reached mid-calf in places, and the wind drove ice particles against her face like tiny needles. Her hands, unprotected by gloves, quickly became numb. She tucked them under her armpits as she walked, occasionally stopping in store entrances to warm them with her breath. By mile 3, Destiny couldn't feel her toes. Twice she almost turned back, but what waited behind her? Another day in the shelter, another missed opportunity. Forward lay possibility, however remote. "I didn't survive everything to quit now," she murmured through chattering teeth. As she pushed through the deserted streets, Destiny thought about her mother. Sarah Williams had been a housekeeper who worked 2 jobs to put Destiny through school. "Education is the one thing they can't take from you," she'd always said. What would Mom think now, seeing her daughter homeless despite her degree? "I'm still fighting, Mom," Destiny said aloud, her words lost in the howling wind. By mile 5, the skyscrapers of downtown Chicago loomed ahead, ghostly shapes in the swirling snow. Her wet sneakers had rubbed blisters on her heels, and each step sent pain shooting up her legs. The coughing fits came more frequently now, leaving her gasping for breath in the frigid air. At a particularly violent coughing spell, she stumbled into a snowbank. For a moment, the exhaustion and cold overwhelmed her. How easy it would be to just close her eyes for a few minutes. The thought of Eleanor jolted her back to alertness. The old woman believed in her when no one else did. Destiny couldn't let her down. With trembling legs, she forced herself back up and continued forward. At 1:45 p.m., after nearly 5 hours of walking through the blizzard, Destiny stood before the gleaming glass tower of Maxwell Enterprises. The contrast between her journey and this monument to wealth and power struck her forcefully. People like her didn't belong in places like this. But she had made it. Against all odds, she had arrived. In the opulent lobby, the security guard eyed her suspiciously, her wet clothes, her inappropriate shoes, her clearly exhausted state. "I have an interview with Blake Maxwell at 2 p.m., she said, her voice hoarse from coughing. "My name is Destiny Williams." The guard checked his computer with obvious skepticism. His eyebrows rose in surprise. "You're on the list." He handed her a visitor badge. 72nd floor. In the elevator, Destiny caught her reflection in the mirrored wall and almost didn't recognize herself. Her hair was damp from melted snow, her face pale with exhaustion except for the fever's flush on her cheeks. The white blouse, though new, looked rumpled and slightly damp at the edges. The elevator stopped on the 38th floor, and a woman entered, stylishly dressed in an expensive suit, not a hair out of place. She glanced at Destiny and immediately took a step back, her nose wrinkling slightly. "Going to 72 as well?" she asked, noting Destiny's visitor badge. Destiny nodded. "Interviewing with my uncle," the woman continued, her tone making it clear she found the idea absurd. Before Destiny could respond, the woman extended a manicured hand. "Victoria Harrington, Director of Development and niece of Blake Maxwell." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Good luck. You'll need it." As the elevator continued its climb, Destiny felt every doubt she'd pushed aside during her journey resurface with brutal force. But she thought of Eleanor's words, "You belong in that room with Maxwell." With that thought firmly in mind, Destiny stepped off the elevator into the unknown territory of Maxwell Enterprises, leaving wet footprints on the pristine marble floor. The receptionist at Maxwell Enterprises looked up as Destiny approached the desk, her expression shifting from professional welcome to barely concealed surprise. "Destiny Williams. I have an appointment with Mr. Maxwell at 2 p.m., Destiny said, fighting to keep her voice steady despite the urge to cough. The receptionist checked her computer. "Yes, I see your name here. Please have a seat. I'll let Mr. Maxwell's assistant know you've arrived." Destiny sat in a sleek leather chair that probably cost more than 6 months of her mother's rent. The waiting area offered a panoramic view of Chicago, the blizzard transforming the city into a white blur below. Under different circumstances, she might have appreciated the beauty. A few minutes later, a stern-looking man in a tailored suit appeared. "Ms. Williams? I'm James, Mr. Maxwell's assistant. Follow me." He led her down a corridor lined with awards and tech magazine covers featuring Blake Maxwell's face, square-jawed, intense eyes, never smiling. They stopped before a massive door with "Maxwell" in steel letters. "He's on a call. Wait here." James disappeared through the door. Destiny tried to compose herself, but a coughing fit seized her. She fumbled for a tissue, trying to muffle the sound. The door swung open. "Mr. Maxwell will see you now," James announced. Blake Maxwell sat behind a desk that seemed to float above the floor, his back to a wall of windows. At 45, he had the lean physique of someone who considered physical fitness another form of discipline. His cold blue eyes assessed Destiny with clinical detachment. "Sit," he commanded, not bothering with introductions. Destiny lowered herself into the chair across from him, acutely aware of her damp clothes and inappropriate sneakers. Maxwell picked up a tablet and scrolled through what she assumed was her resume. His frown deepened. "Your address is incomplete," he said abruptly. "There's no apartment number." Destiny swallowed. "I don't currently have a permanent address." "You're homeless." It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. Temporarily. Maxwell set down the tablet with finality. I don't hire unstable people. He glanced toward the door. That will be all, Ms. Williams. Just like that, it was over, 5 seconds of conversation after 5 hours of walking through a blizzard. Destiny stood, her legs trembling with exhaustion and disappointment. As she turned to leave, the room spun violently. She reached for the chair to steady herself, but her hand found only air. The marble floor rushed up to meet her. When Destiny regained consciousness, she was lying on a leather couch in what appeared to be a small meeting room. Blake Maxwell stood at the window, speaking quietly on his phone. She collapsed in my office, he was saying. No, I don't need security. Just send in some water and something to eat. He ended the call and turned to her. When did you last eat? Destiny struggled to sit up. Yesterday morning, she admitted. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Yesterday morning, he repeated flatly. And you walked here in a blizzard? She nodded, mortified. Why? The question was direct, his tone genuinely curious. The buses were cancelled. I needed to make this interview. You could have rescheduled. People like me don't get second chances, Mr. Maxwell. A knock at the door interrupted them. James entered with a tray containing a sandwich, fruit, and water. Maxwell nodded toward Destiny. Eat. She hesitated, then took the food, too hungry to refuse. As she ate, Maxwell studied her with the same intensity he might examine a puzzling line of code. You have pneumonia, he observed. Destiny paused mid-bite. Early stages. I'm on antibiotics. Yet you walked over 7 miles in a blizzard for a job interview. Yes. That's either remarkable dedication or remarkable stupidity. Sometimes they look the same from the outside, Destiny replied before she could stop herself. To her surprise, the corner of Maxwell's mouth twitched, almost a smile. He pulled a chair across from her. Why should I waste my time on you, Ms. Williams? His tone was caustic, but his eyes were intent, as if her answer genuinely mattered. Destiny set down the sandwich. If this was her only shot, she would take it. Because I created something you might find interesting. She pulled out her laptop, praying it hadn't been damaged by the snow. It powered on, and she opened her StreetSmart application. This is an algorithm I developed to help homeless people find resources in real time. It aggregates data from shelters, soup kitchens, medical clinics, and public facilities, then optimizes routing based on current weather conditions, public transportation availability, and user needs. She turned the screen toward him. It uses a modified version of the traveling salesman problem solution, but with multiple dynamic variables and weighted priorities. Maxwell's expression changed subtly as he took the laptop and examined the code. He scrolled through it, his fingers moving rapidly as he expanded different sections. You wrote this? His voice was neutral, but his eyes had narrowed. Yes. Where did you get the training? Computer science degree from Illinois State. Then self-taught from library books and online resources. And you developed this while homeless? It gave me purpose. I thought it might help others in my situation. Maxwell stood suddenly and walked to the door. Wait here. The command was unnecessary. Where exactly did he think she would go? Through the glass wall, she could see him speaking to James and Victoria Harrington, who had appeared in the hallway. Victoria's expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief to something that looked like alarm. Maxwell returned, his face unreadable. He placed her laptop on the table between them. Who else has seen this code? He asked. No one, Destiny answered. Then amended, except an elderly friend who used to be a programmer. She helped me refine some algorithms. And who would believe a homeless woman created something this sophisticated? It wasn't really a question. Destiny met his gaze steadily. Exactly. Blake Maxwell studied Destiny for a long moment, his expression calculating. "Let me be clear about something, Ms. Williams. I don't hire people out of charity. I hire them because they add value to my company." He tapped her laptop screen. "This algorithm has potential. The application itself isn't particularly relevant to our business, but the underlying code structure." He trailed off, seemingly reconsidering how much to reveal. "I'm offering you a position as a junior developer, starting immediately. $65,000 a year, standard benefits package. You'll report directly to Victoria." Destiny blinked, unable to process what she was hearing. From homeless to employed in minutes. It felt unreal. "Well?" Maxwell prompted impatiently. "Yes," Destiny managed. "Thank you for the opportunity. Don't thank me yet. I expect results, not gratitude." He pressed a button on his desk. "James will handle your paperwork. Be at your desk at 8 a.m. Monday." He paused. "Assuming you have somewhere to spend the weekend?" The question highlighted her precarious situation. Even with a job offer, she was still homeless tonight. "I'll figure something out," she said, determined not to appear needy. Maxwell sighed with apparent irritation. He pulled out a company credit card and handed it to James, who had appeared at the door. "Book MS. Williams into the Palmer House for the weekend. Corporate rate. Add a salary advance of $2,000 for immediate expenses." His tone made it clear this wasn't generosity but practicality. "I need her functional on Monday, not sleeping in a shelter." Within an hour, Destiny had signed employment paperwork, received a temporary employee badge, and been escorted to a desk in a corner of the 68th floor, the developer bullpen, as James called it. Most staff had gone home early due to the blizzard, so the floor was nearly empty. Victoria appeared while Destiny was setting up her computer login. "So," Victoria said, leaning against the desk, "you managed to impress my uncle. That's unusual." "I'm grateful for the opportunity," Destiny replied cautiously. "I'm sure you are." Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just remember that Maxwell Enterprises has certain standards. Professional standards." Her gaze lingered on Destiny's inappropriate clothing. "I understand," Destiny said. "Do you?" "Because this isn't a charity case. My uncle may have been momentarily impressed by your little app, but ultimately, you'll be judged on results." Before Destiny could respond, Victoria added, "Team meeting Monday at 9. Don't be late." She walked away, her heels clicking sharply on the polished floor. James approached as Victoria disappeared around a corner. "Don't mind her. She's protective of the company." He handed Destiny a key card. "Your hotel reservation is confirmed. Town car is waiting downstairs to take you there." The Palmer House was one of Chicago's most historic luxury hotels. Destiny felt painfully out of place as she entered the ornate lobby in her damp clothes and worn sneakers. The receptionist's professional demeanor didn't falter, however, as she processed the corporate reservation. "Will you be needing anything else, Ms. Williams?" she asked. What Destiny needed was clothing, toiletries, medication, everything. But all she said was, "No, thank you." The hotel room was the most beautiful space Destiny had seen in months. King-sized bed, marble bathroom, plush robes, luxury beyond imagination after shelters and subway floors. Destiny sat on the edge of the bed, overwhelmed. Just this morning, she had been homeless, sick, and hopeless. Now she had a job, a temporary place to stay, and a salary advance that would allow her to rent an apartment. It didn't feel real. She called Eleanor from the hotel phone, her hands still shaking slightly. "I got the job," she said when Eleanor answered at the community center. "I knew you would." Eleanor's voice cracked with emotion. "Tell me everything." Destiny recounted the interview, her collapse, and Maxwell's unexpected job offer. "Be careful," Eleanor warned after listening. People like Maxwell don't do anything without an angle. He saw value in your work, but make sure he doesn't exploit you. I don't have much choice, Destiny replied. This is my only shot. You always have choices, dear. Just keep your eyes open. After promising to meet Eleanor the next day, Destiny hung up and entered the bathroom. The mirror reflected a young woman she barely recognized, exhausted, thin, with dark circles under her eyes, but with something new there too. Hope. She turned on the shower, her first private shower in months, and let the hot water wash away the day's journey. Later, wrapped in a hotel robe, Destiny ordered room service, another luxury she couldn't believe was now within reach. As she waited, she opened her laptop to check on her StreetSmart app. She needed to update it with information about the emergency shelters opened for the blizzard. A notification popped up, her email had been activated on the Maxwell Enterprises server. Already there were 10 messages, most onboarding information, but one from Blake Maxwell himself: be prepared to demonstrate your algorithm's full capabilities on Monday. I want to see everything it can do. That explains the cold welcome. Don't let it get to you. Victoria does this to anyone she sees as competition. Sophia glanced around. Word is, Maxwell's impressed with some algorithm you created. Victoria hates when her uncle notices anyone but her. When Destiny returned to her desk, she found her keyboard was sticky with what smelled like spilled soda. Later, she discovered her employee badge had mysteriously disappeared from her purse. Security had to issue a temporary one, noting the incident in her file. By Wednesday, the pattern was clear. Files she needed were accidentally deleted. Her system would mysteriously crash. She was excluded from vital emails. Someone's trying to make you quit, Martin observed after helping her recover lost work for the third time. Victoria, Destiny said. Martin nodded. She's been groomed to take over the company someday. Anyone with special attention from Maxwell is a threat. Despite the sabotage, Destiny made progress on the project Maxwell had assigned her, optimizing her resource allocation algorithm for commercial applications. Each night, she worked late, backing up her code on her personal laptop. On Thursday, she used her first paycheck to secure a small studio apartment near a subway station. It was basic but clean, her first real home in months. After signing the lease, she went directly to the Warren Street Community Center to find Eleanor. You look like a different person, Eleanor said, embracing her. Destiny showed her the apartment keys. I have a home again. I'm so proud of you, Eleanor said, her eyes glistening. But how are things really going at Maxwell? Destiny explained the sabotage and hostility she faced daily. Office politics, Eleanor sighed. Some things never change. In my day at IBM, they'd forget to invite me to meetings or take my name off project credits. As they talked, Destiny noticed Eleanor looked pale and was breathing with difficulty. Are you okay? She asked. Just a little cold, Eleanor dismissed her concern. The shelter's been crowded with the weather. But a coughing fit seized the older woman, sounding alarmingly like Destiny's own recent illness. You need to see a doctor, Destiny insisted. With what insurance? Eleanor smiled weakly. Destiny took her immediately to an urgent care clinic, paying the fee herself. The diagnosis confirmed her fears: pneumonia. She needs antibiotics and proper rest, the doctor told Destiny. Is there somewhere warm she can stay? That night, Eleanor stayed in Destiny's new apartment while Destiny slept on an air mattress on the floor. As she was making tea for them both, Eleanor called her over to the window. Isn't that the building they've been talking about on the news? The one being demolished? Across the street stood the Warren Street Community Center, with a small sign out front, property acquired by Maxwell Development Corporation. Destiny's blood ran cold. The shelter where Eleanor and dozens of others found refuge was being demolished, by Blake Maxwell's company. Checking the news on her phone confirmed it: Maxwell Enterprises had purchased the property for a new corporate campus expansion. Construction would begin next month, displacing the shelter with no alternative provided for its residents. I can't believe it, Destiny whispered, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. I'm working for the company that's about to make more people homeless. The discovery about Maxwell Enterprises buying the Warren Street Community Center kept Destiny awake all night. By morning, Eleanor's fever had broken, but Destiny's moral crisis had only intensified. You look troubled, Eleanor observed as Destiny prepared for work. How can I work for the company that's destroying the only safe place for people like us, people like me, just days ago? Destiny paced the small apartment. I should quit. And then what? Eleanor asked pragmatically. Be homeless again. You can't help anyone from the streets. She paused. Information is power, Destiny. Maybe you're exactly where you need to be. Those words echoed in Destiny's mind as she rode the elevator up to the developer floor. She had access to company systems now. Maybe she could learn more about the development plans. At her desk, Destiny found an email from Blake Maxwell, my office. 10 a.m. Bring a complete demonstration of your algorithm. Martin stopped by her desk. Summoned by the boss himself. Either you're doing something very right or very wrong. How would I know which? Destiny asked. You wouldn't, until it's too late. Martin lowered his voice. Word of advice. Maxwell respects people who stand their ground, but he destroys those who threaten his interests. Fine line to walk. At 10 a.m. sharp, Destiny entered Maxwell's office with her laptop. He was on the phone but gestured for her to sit. I don't care what the community board says, he was saying. We have the permits. Construction starts next month. He ended the call abruptly. Warren Street development, he explained unnecessarily. Always resistance to progress. Destiny struggled to keep her expression neutral. You wanted to see my algorithm? Maxwell nodded. Show me everything it can do. For the next 30 minutes, Destiny demonstrated StreetSmart, explaining how it tracked resources and optimized routes for homeless individuals. Maxwell watched intently. The core algorithm, this predictive allocation model, who designed it? I did, Destiny said, then added honestly, with some guidance from my friend who used to work at IBM. She recognized that it was similar to systems they were developing in the 70s. Your friend, Maxwell repeated skeptically. This level of mathematical modeling isn't something amateurs develop. Eleanor's not an amateur. She was lead programmer on Project Aurora at IBM. Maxwell's eyes widened slightly. Eleanor Jenkins. She's your friend? You know her work? Destiny asked, surprised. Every serious developer does. Her predictive models were decades ahead of their time. Maxwell studied Destiny with new interest. Is she still coding? No, she's Destiny hesitated. She's been through hard times. Maxwell waved this away impatiently. Your algorithm has applications far beyond helping homeless people find shelters. He pulled up a presentation on his monitor. We're developing predictive real estate acquisition software. Your code could be the foundation. Destiny felt sick as she realized what he was suggesting. You want to use my algorithm to identify properties to buy? Like the Warren Street Center? Exactly. Properties in transitional neighborhoods before they appreciate. Maxwell seemed oblivious to her discomfort. Your code predicts resource needs brilliantly. With minor modifications, it could predict property value trajectories. So you can displace more vulnerable communities. The words escaped before Destiny could stop them. Maxwell's expression hardened. I'm offering to integrate your work into a multi-million-dollar commercial application. This is an opportunity, Ms. Williams. It is, Destiny agreed carefully. I just want to understand the full scope. Back at her desk, Destiny felt trapped. Maxwell wanted to weaponize her algorithm against the very people she designed it to help. But refusing would likely cost her job. That evening, she used her employee credentials to access Maxwell's real estate development servers. What she found horrified her. The Warren Street project was just the beginning. Maxwell had identified 12 community centers and low-income housing blocks for acquisition. The projections estimated displacing over 1,500 people within 18 months. Even worse, she found a modified version of her algorithm already being implemented, an early prototype based on the code she'd shown Maxwell during her interview. He'd been planning this all along. A chat notification popped up on her screen, "Looking where you shouldn't?" It was from Victoria. Destiny's heart raced. She'd been caught. Another message followed, "My office. Now." Victoria was waiting, a satisfied smile on her face. "Unauthorized server access is grounds for immediate termination." "Are you going to report me?" Destiny asked. "That depends. What were you looking for?" "The truth about the Warren Street development." Victoria's smile faded. "Ah, that. Let me guess, you're upset about a bunch of homeless people losing their shelter." "Business is business." "It's wrong," Destiny said simply. "It's profitable," Victoria countered. "And my uncle is very invested in this project." She leaned forward. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll help us refine the acquisition algorithm, or I'll report your unauthorized access, and you'll be back on the streets by tonight." "You're blackmailing me." "I'm offering you a choice." Victoria's tone was matter-of-fact. "Grow up, Destiny. This is the real world. People like us succeed by making hard choices." "People like us?" Destiny echoed incredulously. "Smart women in a male-dominated industry. We have to be practical." Victoria's expression softened slightly. "I'm not the villain here. I'm trying to secure my future just like you." Destiny left Victoria's office with her job intact but her conscience in turmoil. She had become exactly what Eleanor had warned about, a pawn in Maxwell's game. That night, a massive storm hit Chicago unexpectedly. The emergency alert system failed due to a power outage affecting the South Side. Destiny received frantic texts from friends still on the street. Shelters were filling up, and many people were stranded in dangerous conditions. She opened her StreetSmart app, the original version designed to help, not harm. Using her knowledge of Chicago's emergency systems, she began coordinating shelter information in real time. By midnight, she had made a decision. She would use her position at Maxwell Enterprises to fight from within, starting with the upcoming board presentation where Maxwell planned to unveil the new real estate acquisition strategy. It would likely cost her job, maybe even her future in tech. But as she remembered telling Maxwell during her interview, "People like me don't get second chances." If this was her only chance, she would use it to make a difference. The Maxwell Enterprises boardroom buzzed with anticipation. Investors and board members filled the long table, while executives lined the walls. Blake Maxwell stood at the head of the room, commanding attention as he always did. "Today marks the launch of our most ambitious expansion yet," Maxwell announced, gesturing to the digital presentation behind him. "The Maxwell Innovation Campus will transform the Warren Street district from an underutilized area into a technology hub, generating thousands of jobs." Beautiful renderings showed gleaming glass buildings, landscaped walkways, and affluent professionals. No trace remained of the community center or the people who depended on it. Destiny sat in the back corner, heart pounding. She had spent the entire night preparing for this moment. Victoria had positioned herself near her uncle, occasionally glancing at Destiny with warning in her eyes. "The key to our acquisition strategy," Maxwell continued, "is proprietary predictive software that identifies optimal properties before the market recognizes their value." He nodded to his technical team. "We're prepared to deploy this system across 12 targeted neighborhoods within the next quarter." This was her moment. Destiny stood, laptop in hand. "Excuse me, Mr. Maxwell. I'd like to present an alternative approach." The room fell silent. Maxwell's expression flickered between surprise and anger. Ms. Williams, this is not the appropriate time. It's exactly the time, Destiny said, walking forward. Her legs were shaking, but her voice remained steady. Before you commit to this plan, the board should see all options. She connected her laptop to the presentation system, acutely aware that she was likely ending her career. Victoria's face had turned to stone. The current plan requires displacing a community center that serves over 200 homeless individuals daily, Destiny began, showing images of the Warren Street Center. These aren't just statistics, they're people I lived alongside until very recently. Murmurs rippled through the room. Many hadn't known about Destiny's background. I've developed an alternative plan that incorporates the community center into the campus design, she continued, displaying her revised renderings. By repurposing part of the center as a technology training facility, we create a bridge between Maxwell Enterprises and the community. Board members leaned forward with interest as she outlined a program that would provide basic coding training to homeless individuals, potentially creating a pipeline of entry-level talent while addressing a social need. The initial investment would be offset by tax incentives for community development, Destiny explained, switching to financial projections. More importantly, it transforms a potential PR crisis into a corporate responsibility success story. Maxwell's expression had changed from anger to calculation. He was nothing if not pragmatic. And what qualifies you to redesign my development project? He asked coolly. My algorithm, the one you've adapted for property acquisition, was originally designed to help homeless people find resources, Destiny replied. I understand both the technology and the human elements of this equation. An older board member spoke up. I find this proposal intriguing. Community integration could mitigate the resistance we're facing from local groups. Victoria stepped forward. This is absurd. We can't reshape a multi-million-dollar development around a homeless shelter. She turned to Maxwell. Uncle Blake, Ms. Williams doesn't even have authorization to access the development plans. She hacked into secure servers. All eyes turned to Destiny. Is this true? Maxwell asked. Yes, Destiny admitted. After I learned you were using my algorithm to displace vulnerable people, I needed to understand the full scope of the project. That's grounds for immediate termination, Victoria said triumphantly. Maxwell studied Destiny for a long moment. The room held its breath. Ms. Williams, you've overstepped significantly. His voice was cold. Not only accessing restricted information but challenging a board-approved project in front of our investors. Destiny met his gaze. Sometimes doing the right thing requires breaking the rules. The right thing? Maxwell's eyes narrowed. You presume to lecture me on ethical business practices? No, I'm offering you a better solution both ethically and financially. Several board members nodded subtly. They recognized a good PR opportunity when they saw one. Maxwell turned to the room. We'll take a 30-minute recess to consider both proposals. As the room cleared, Maxwell gestured for Destiny to remain. When they were alone, his mask of control dropped. You've made a very dangerous move, he said quietly. I had no choice. There are always choices, Ms. Williams. You chose to publicly challenge me in front of my board and investors. He stepped closer. No one does that. Perhaps someone should, Destiny replied, surprised by her own courage. Your expansion plan will create homelessness. I've lived that reality, Mr. Maxwell. No corporate campus is worth putting more people through that experience. Something shifted in Maxwell's expression, not quite sympathy, but recognition. You're fired, Ms. Williams. His voice was matter-of-fact. Clear out your desk immediately. It was exactly what she'd expected, but the words still hit hard. Her brief journey from homeless to employed had ended. I understand, she said, gathering her laptop. Do you? Maxwell asked. You've just sacrificed your career to make a point that will ultimately change nothing. The development will proceed as planned. Destiny paused at the door. Maybe. But I had to try. As she packed her desk, employees watched in uncomfortable silence. Martin approached while security waited to escort her out. "That took guts," he said quietly, slipping her a business card. "When the dust settles, call me. My brother's startup could use someone with your talent and integrity." Outside, standing on the sidewalk with her few possessions in a box, Destiny felt a strange mixture of despair and relief. She had lost her job but kept her principles. Her phone buzzed with a weather alert, severe storm warning. Dangerous conditions expected tonight. She thought of the people on the streets, those who would soon lose the Warren Street shelter. Some battles weren't over yet. Destiny walked through the downtown streets, the wind picking up around her as storm clouds gathered overhead. In just 1 week, she had gone from homeless to employed to unemployed again. Her phone buzzed with concerned texts from Eleanor. "I got fired," she texted back simply. "Come home," Eleanor replied immediately. "We'll figure this out together." Home. The word still felt strange. Even with her job gone, she still had her small apartment at least until the rent came due again. By evening, the promised storm had become a meteorological monster. The National Weather Service issued urgent alerts as wind gusts reached 70 miles per hour, downing power lines across Chicago's south side. Heavy rain flooded streets, and temperatures plummeted. Destiny sat in her apartment with Eleanor, watching the disaster unfold on her laptop. The city's emergency notification system had crashed, leaving many people without critical information about shelter locations and evacuation routes. "Those poor souls out there," Eleanor said, watching footage of flooded streets. "The Warren Street Center will be overwhelmed." Destiny thought about the hundreds of people she'd lived alongside just days ago. Without information about which shelters had space or which streets were passable, they would be wandering blindly through a dangerous storm. She opened her StreetSmart app. "I can help," she said, fingers flying over the keyboard. "I still have access to the city's emergency services data feeds from when I was building this." For the next hour, Destiny updated her app with real-time information about flood zones, power outages, and available shelter space. She texted links to everyone she knew from her time on the streets, asking them to spread the word. "It's working," she said, watching the user count climb. "People are finding their way to safety." Local news stations picked up on the grassroots emergency response system. A reporter contacted Destiny for an interview, broadcasting live from a shelter where dozens had arrived using her app. "This woman's technology is saving lives tonight," the reporter said, as the camera showed people huddled safely inside, many looking at StreetSmart on shared phones. Among those watching the broadcast was Blake Maxwell. In his penthouse above the storm, he saw the reporter interview shelter residents about how they'd found safety. "This young lady, she used to be one of us," said an older man, pointing to a photo of Destiny on the news. "She made this app while she was living on the streets. Now she's helping us even though she got a fancy job." Maxwell leaned forward, his attention caught. The camera panned across the shelter, showing the diverse group of people who had found refuge from the storm. And then it stopped on a face Maxwell hadn't seen in years, a face he thought he'd never see again. Robert Taylor, his late wife's brother, was alive and sitting in that shelter. Maxwell stared in disbelief. Robert had disappeared 5 years ago after losing his teaching job due to a medical crisis. Maxwell's wife, Catherine, had begged him to use his resources to find her brother, but Maxwell had dismissed Robert as a lost cause, probably drug-addicted or mentally ill by now, he'd reasoned. Catherine had never forgiven him. On her deathbed, she had made Maxwell promise to help vulnerable people like her brother. A promise he had promptly buried along with his wife. Now, through some cosmic coincidence, Destiny Williams, the homeless programmer he'd just fired, had inadvertently led him to his long-lost brother-in-law. The next morning, as the storm subsided, Maxwell's driver took him to the Warren Street shelter. He found Robert helping serve breakfast, looking older but surprisingly healthy. Their reunion was awkward, filled with years of unspoken hurt and abandonment. "Catherine never stopped looking for you," Maxwell said. I should have done more. Robert's expression softened slightly. She always believed in you, Blake. Said underneath that ruthless businessman was a good man. She was wrong about many things, Maxwell replied quietly. As they talked, Maxwell learned that Robert had indeed suffered a mental health crisis after losing his job and health insurance. He'd been living on the streets or in shelters ever since, managing his condition through free clinics when possible. "This place saved me," Robert said, gesturing around the Warren Street Center. "The one you're planning to tear down." Maxwell felt something he rarely experienced: shame. Later that day, Destiny was surprised to receive a text from an unknown number: "We need to talk." Car waiting outside. BM, she hesitated, then decided she had nothing left to lose. Maxwell was waiting in the back of a sleek black car. "Get in," he said when Destiny approached. It wasn't a request. As they drove through Chicago's recovering streets, Maxwell was uncharacteristically quiet. Finally, he spoke. "Your emergency response system last night. It was impressive." "Thank you," Destiny replied cautiously. "I saw the interviews. People speaking about how your app guided them to safety." He paused. "I also saw someone I've been looking for. My wife's brother." Destiny listened as Maxwell explained the connection, how Robert had been missing for years, and how her app had inadvertently reunited them. "My wife made me promise to help people like him, like you," Maxwell admitted. "I failed her." The car stopped outside the Warren Street Center. Inside, cleanup from the storm was underway. Eleanor was there, organizing volunteers. "I'm offering you your job back," Maxwell said. "Not as a developer, but as Director of Social Innovation, a new department. Your community integration plan for the Warren Street development will be the first project." Destiny studied his face, looking for the catch. Why the change of heart? Let's call it a long overdue wake-up call. Maxwell's expression remained unreadable. "I'm a businessman, Ms. Williams. When presented with a better model, I adapt. And my conditions? Transparency about how my algorithm is used. Profit sharing for community programs. We can negotiate terms," Maxwell conceded. "Your approach yesterday was reckless and insubordinate, but your concept has merit. Both ethically and financially." As they entered the center, heads turned. Eleanor approached, eyeing Maxwell suspiciously. "Destiny explained your history with IBM," Maxwell said to her. "Project Aurora was revolutionary. We could use your expertise as a consultant on our community training program." Eleanor's eyebrows rose. "Are you offering me a job, Mr. Maxwell?" "I'm offering both of you a chance to transform this company and this community." He gestured around the shelter. "Starting with preserving this place, not destroying it." Destiny exchanged glances with Eleanor. Was this real, or another corporate manipulation? "I need to think about it," Destiny said carefully. Maxwell handed her a business card. "Monday, 9 a.m. My office." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and Victoria has been reassigned to our Seattle office. Effective immediately." After he left, Eleanor turned to Destiny with wide eyes. "What just happened?" "I think," Destiny said slowly, "we just won." 1 year later, the Maxwell Innovation Campus was hosting its grand opening. Unlike the original sterile glass and steel design, the completed campus integrated the historic Warren Street building at its heart. The former shelter had been expanded and renovated into the Maxwell Community Technology Center, while still maintaining emergency housing services on its lower level. Destiny stood backstage at the auditorium, reviewing her presentation notes one last time. As Director of Social Innovation, she had overseen the development of the Community Integration Program from concept to reality. Today, she would present the results to investors, media, and tech industry leaders. "Nervous?" asked Eleanor, now the lead instructor for the center's coding program. At 71, she had found a new purpose, teaching technology skills to people rebuilding their lives. A little, Destiny admitted. There's a lot riding on this. Blake Maxwell approached, looking more relaxed than Destiny had ever seen him. Working with his brother-in-law Robert had softened some of his harder edges. Ready? He asked Destiny. The investors are getting impatient. They won't be for long, she replied confidently. As Destiny walked onto the stage, she caught sight of Martin in the audience, who had returned to Maxwell Enterprises to lead the technical team for her department. Sophia sat beside him, now Destiny's executive assistant. Even Victoria had flown in from Seattle, her initial hostility gradually replaced by grudging professional respect. Good morning, Destiny began. 1 year ago, I stood in a boardroom and proposed a radical idea, that a technology company could grow its business while lifting up the community around it. Today, I'm proud to show you the results of that vision. The screens behind her displayed the statistics. 53 formerly homeless individuals had completed the first coding certification program. 42 were now employed, including 17 at Maxwell Enterprises itself. The emergency response system developed during last year's storm had been officially adopted by the city of Chicago and was being implemented in 3 other major cities. But numbers only tell part of the story, Destiny continued. The true measure of our success is in the lives that have been transformed. Please welcome the first graduating class of the Maxwell Community Technology Program. The side doors opened, and the graduates walked in, men and women of diverse ages and backgrounds, all wearing professional attire and beaming with pride. Among them was Robert Taylor, who had discovered a talent for database management and now co-led the Emergency Response System project. As the audience applauded, Destiny caught Maxwell nodding with unusual emotion. This wasn't just a PR victory, it was the fulfillment of his promise to his late wife. The presentation continued with demonstrations of projects the graduates had developed, from public service apps to business solutions. Investors who had been skeptical were now leaning forward with interest. This wasn't charity, it was innovation from an untapped talent pool. Near the end of the presentation, Destiny was preparing to introduce Maxwell when Victoria approached the stage. She handed Destiny a tablet displaying a breaking news story, Maxwell's social innovation program accused of code theft. The article claimed that StreetSmart's core algorithm had been stolen from a university research project. Anonymous sources suggested that Destiny couldn't possibly have developed such sophisticated code while homeless. Destiny's heart sank as she looked out at the suddenly murmuring audience. Some investors were already checking their phones, reading the story in real time. Maxwell took the stage beside her. Continue, he said quietly. We'll address this afterward. But Destiny could see the doubt creeping into his eyes. After everything they'd built, her credibility was being questioned in the most public way possible. As Destiny struggled to regain the audience's attention, the back doors of the auditorium opened. Eleanor entered, supported by a cane, followed by an elderly man Destiny didn't recognize. Excuse me, Eleanor called out in a strong voice that belied her frail appearance. I believe you're discussing the origin of the StreetSmart algorithm. She made her way to the stage, the audience parting before her. The man following her carried an old briefcase. I'm Eleanor Jenkins, former lead programmer for IBM's Project Aurora. Her voice carried clearly through the now silent room. And this is Dr. Harold Chen, my project director from 1978. Dr. Chen opened his briefcase and removed a small device. This is an original IBM data storage unit containing Eleanor's work from 45 years ago, he explained, his voice carrying the weight of academic authority. I've preserved it all these years as a testament to her brilliance. Eleanor held up a flash drive. And this contains every version of the StreetSmart algorithm, from Destiny's first crude attempts to its current sophistication. I saved each iteration as she worked on it in the library after hours. She looked directly at Victoria, whose face had gone pale. I watched this young woman develop this code line by line, night after night, while fighting pneumonia and homelessness. Anyone questioning her authorship is either misinformed or deliberately lying. The room erupted in murmurs as Dr. Chen connected the storage device to a laptop. Side by side, they displayed Eleanor's original mathematical models from the 1970s and the evolution of Destiny's algorithm. As you can see, Eleanor continued, Destiny built upon principles I developed decades ago, but her implementation is entirely original and frankly, improves upon my work substantially. Victoria slipped quietly from the room as Maxwell stepped forward. It seems we have our answer, he said, his confidence restored. And now, I have an announcement of my own. He revealed the creation of the Second Chance Foundation, funded with 30% of Maxwell Enterprises' annual profits, dedicated to addressing homelessness through technology training and support programs nationwide. Destiny would serve as the foundation's CEO while maintaining her role at Maxwell Enterprises. The audience rose in a standing ovation. As cameras flashed and reporters called questions, Destiny found herself standing between Eleanor and Maxwell, her past and her future somehow perfectly aligned. Later, at the reception, a young journalist asked Destiny the question everyone wanted answered: how did you go from homeless to heading a multi-million-dollar foundation in just 1 year? Destiny looked across the room at Eleanor, who was deep in conversation with Dr. Chen and Robert, her silver owl brooch glinting under the lights. My mother used to say that our value isn't in what we possess, but in what we offer to others, Destiny replied. I lost everything, except that lesson. And it was enough to bring me here. As the celebration continued around her, Destiny watched the diverse group of graduates, people who, like her, had been invisible just a year ago, now confidently networking with tech industry leaders. The journey from the streets to this moment had been impossible, improbable, and yet somehow inevitable. She had returned with the elixir, not just for herself, but for all those who would follow the path she had forged. Our story is reaching its conclusion. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. Which moment of this extraordinary story touched your heart the most? Leave your like, share this story of triumph with someone who needs inspiration today, and tell us in the comments what lesson you're taking from Destiny's journey.